Hey, my wife Liz recently got me some cool stuff I thought I'd show you. What you're about to see is my first ever unboxing video. If you've seen my history video, you might know that I owned an IBM PCjr. Well, I still have it, and it still works. That's why Liz bought me these for my birthday, which is actually still a couple of weeks away as of the making of this video. First up is the IBM PCjr joystick. The PCjr is the only computer I've ever owned without a joystick. I've never even seen one of these. On the back of the box, the IBM PC joystick may be used as a control device for games, entertainment programs, and other graphic applications. One or two joysticks may be plugged into the system unit. Highlights: 2 modes of operation, spring return or free floating, centering adjustments, 2 fire buttons. You can also see that this was made in Japan. Next is the IBM PCjr keyboard cord. I've wanted one of these forever. For whatever reason, the system doesn't come with one by default, and instead the keyboard uses infrared and is powered by 4 AA batteries. If you wanted to move the keyboard around or avoid using batteries, you had to get one of these. On the box, the IBM PCjr keyboard cord may be used to connect your cordless keyboard to the system unit. Highlights: permits operation without batteries, disables cordless link between the computer and keyboard, permits use of more than one IBM PCjr in the same immediate area. This one was made in the USA. Finally, there's the IBM PCjr adapter cable for the IBM Color display. That's a mouthful. When the PCjr was first released, they apparently didn't have the monitors ready even though it has non-standard ports for everything. To compensate, IBM released an adapter cable that would allow you to use a standard CGA monitor. Why not just use standard ports though? I have a PCjr Color monitor, but this will actually let me capture proper direct feed video since modern TVs and capture devices don't seem to understand the color signal from the composite output. Reading this box, this IBM PCjr option permits you to attach the IBM Personal Computer Color Display, item 5153001, to your IBM PCjr system. No special highlights this time. I don't think they were too happy about having to make it. Again, made in the USA. I wonder why the joystick was the only one from Japan. This is the only one that had some kind of dealer sticker. Came from a place called Computer Craft and would have originally sold for $20. Just for a second, let's jump ahead to the future to see that the CGA to VGA converter I ordered came in time for this video. Now we'll have a really quick look at the condition the boxes are in. They seem almost perfect except for a couple of small spots. This dingy look here could be weathering, or it could just be the type of cardboard they used. I almost don't want to open them, but I will. Since I want to do as little damage as possible, I'll borrow one of Liz's X-Acto knives to slit the plastic around the edges. We'll start, again, with the joystick. I was kinda hesitant, and you can see that I had a little bit of trouble with it. I just really didn't want to damage the box. I'm finally able to open the box itself, very carefully, and there's the joystick inside. Remove this bit here and the box is empty. Now to just unfold everything a bit. And then we get a look at the connector, which, as you can see, is non-standard. And the joystick itself. It's pretty nice, light but sturdy. I try to mess with the free floating toggle, but there's a trick to it that I don't know, so I'm kinda just fiddling with it for a bit. You can see that by default it's in the spring-back mode, which is what you'd expect of any joystick. The trick to changing it is that the stick has to be moved to the corner before you can flip the switches on the bottom, which is kinda difficult. Now it's in free floating mode, and you can see the stick stays where you leave it. It's pretty weird, and I've only ever seen it one other time on an Apple II joystick. Flip the switches back the other way, and you can see the stick spring back to the center. After I was done with that, I realized that the cardboard piece in the box wasn't just cardboard, it was also the instruction manual. I was gonna read it, but that just add way too much time to the video. I'll put a link in the description for a place where you can find it. Now we'll move on to the keyboard cable. This box seemed to give me the hardest time of all opening it, probably because I've had an unreasonable want for one of these forever. I just really don't get why the infrared wireless was supposed to be a good idea. Inside the box, we see it's wrapped up ridiculously well for a cable. Unroll it. And there it is. The first thing I noticed was all the grease on this part, or at least I thought it was grease and not a warning of things to come. Here's the proprietary plug, and on the other side is an RJ11, which is what plugs into the keyboard. And when it's not there, you have these two infrared nodes for signal and 4 AA batteries for power. The cable also came with instructions, but let's just flip through those really quick. Check the description for a link to a place where you can read them. Next, we'll get to the display adapter. This one didn't give me all that much trouble. Again, we see a lot of protection for a boxed wire. Unroll, and this one's pretty tiny. Here's the proprietary display plug, and here's the end for the standard CGA monitor. As far as I know, this is just a straight up crossover cable for the video. It's only missing a way to handle the PCjr audio pins for the speaker on its own monitor. Here we have another instruction manual, but this one's sort of strange. As you could see, instead of being in the manual, the warranty was an entirely separate piece of paper. Also, this one has a ton of notes pages. What kind of notes would you need to be taking? Jumping back to the future, here's the MCE2 VGA. Just take out the invoice. Tested July 14th, 2019. This is from Belgium. Lazy Game Reviews has a detailed review of this, so I'll just show it in brief. There'll be a link in the description. You can see that it's based on the Core EP4CE6 Altera Cyclone FPGA, with one port here for CGA input and another for the VGA output. In my case, I needed to get a cable for the CGA in too. This is just a standard DB9, so I'll tear right in. You might recognize this even if you've never used anything lower than VGA. It's the same as a 9-pin serial port and game controllers for several old consoles and computers. Now it's time to plug some stuff in. I hope you can forgive the shaky smartphone footage. You can see here that all the ports are a special type, except for the audio and video RCA jacks. First comes the joystick. It's an easy fit if you're careful with the pins. The PCjr has a built-in diagnostics mode, so we can use that to test add-ons like the joystick. Well, it sees it, but it looks like it's player 2 instead of player 1. Seems to work, but the centering is slightly off. You could change it with the calibration wheels, but it's kinda hard to tell when it's just right since the interface is a low-res text mode. Now to plug in the keyboard. Take a good look at those pins for later. You could also see that I've already moved the joystick from what was apparently port 2 to port 1. Going back into diagnostics mode, we can see that it actually appears and functions as player 1 now. Backing out, we'll test the keyboard. First you can see it working unplugged through the infrared. There's the receiver on the front of the computer. Now to plug it in on this side. This will disable the infrared transmission and send through the keyboard port on the back. And there's no response. Here are the pins I mentioned earlier. If you can see it through the shaking, you might notice that one is missing. There's supposed to be 2 on the top and 3 on the bottom. You can see the broken remains of the third one. I stuffed some wire into that slot on the plug to try and make a connection, and it worked. Once. I pulled it back out to get this footage, and then I couldn't get it working again. Things went sort of downhill from there. While trying to get some more life out of it, I unplugged the keyboard side. One of the RJ11 pins looked a little loose and there seemed to be a bit of dust, so I ran my thumb over it, and it practically disintegrated. The jack broke into pieces and popped right off the wire. It must have been exposed to some intense heat, which would also explain the melted plastic I had previously misidentified as grease. I crimped on a new RJ11 and tried another stuffed wire. It did work again, once. Just moving the computer broke the connection, and I couldn't get it to stay reliably by bumping the connector a bit. Then, my worst fear happened. All the PCjr's connector pins are extremely easy to bend and feel fragile. The little bit of jostling I gave the keyboard port was all it took to break off another pin. You can see it here still inside the cable plug. Here you can see the pin missing on the system. It looks pretty much just like the other one did. I was somewhat relieved to see in the footage that the first one was already missing before I started messing with it, but it doesn't make it any less broken. If you're thinking that's not the only thing that looks different about this port now, you'd be right. I had also tried to solder some pieces into place to complete the broken connection, but the solder just kept beating up and all I ended up doing was melting the plastic. You might have noticed that the cable plug was roughed up in the previous image too. Same reason. It's a very tight area to work in, so I ended up burning part of the case too. It upsets me, but I guess I shouldn't be too bothered by some minor cosmetic damage. It's not a museum piece, it's part of my life. This was just a side effect of continued maintenance. Speaking of which though, if anybody can recommend a place near Riverside, Moreno Valley, or Los Angeles where I could have those keyboard connector pins professionally replaced, I'd really appreciate it. Moving on though, everything else still works. The MCE2 VGA having come in lets me show the display adapter in action too. What you see here is direct feed video from my PCjr captured into OBS on Windows 10. That probably means the best way to close out this video would be with some actual direct footage. Let's boot back up into the diagnostics. You can already see that the keyboard still works in wireless mode, but we haven't looked at the actual keyboard test yet. In this test, this little dude here moves around and shows you where the button you pressed is on the keyboard if you hadn't already pressed it yet. Typing during the animation shows the keystroke buffer in action. To exit, you have to hold the function button and press B, but he'll want to intercept those keys too. Now once more into the joystick test. And you can see the joystick is fine too. Well, that's it for now. Leave a comment to let me know what you thought of the video and if you'd like to see more. If you would, please like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter too at HCStealth. If you want to support my channel and game projects, consider becoming a patron. Every little bit adds up. Thanks for watching. See you later. For whatever reason, the system doesn't come with one by default, and instead of the keyboard uses